General Shin Hai-wan stood in the war room aboard the massive command ship New Earth, studying holographic displays that showed the galaxy-wide conflict. In just 2 weeks, the war had spread to over 300 star systems. The Devourers were adapting to human tactics faster than anyone had expected. "General, we've lost contact with the Fifth Fleet," reported Colonel Park Sung-woo. His appearance had changed dramatically since the fighting began. His eyes now glowed with inner light, and his physical form seemed to flicker between solid and translucent. "How many ships?" asked Shin Hai-wan. 12 vessels plus support craft. But that's not the worst part. The space where the battle took place has been completely erased. Our sensors can't detect anything there, not even empty vacuum. Dr. Kim Ye-jin entered the war room carrying urgent data. She had been working with alien scientists to understand the Devourer's true nature. What she had discovered was terrifying. "General, we've made a breakthrough in understanding what we're fighting. The Devourers aren't just consuming matter and energy. They're consuming the concept of existence itself." Shin Hae-won frowned. "Explain that in simple terms, Doctor." "Imagine that reality is like a book. The Devourers aren't just erasing the words, they're erasing the pages, the idea that the book ever existed, and even the possibility that books could exist. The implications were staggering. Every victory against the Devourers came at the cost of losing some aspect of reality itself. And the humans were the only beings capable of fighting them. On the front lines, Sergeant Lee Bo-ram led her squad through a dimension that didn't have a name. The Devourers had learned to attack through layers of reality that most beings couldn't even perceive. "Contact ahead," she called to her team, but her voice no longer came through normal sound waves. Her thoughts were transmitted directly to her soldiers' minds. Private Jang Woo-sung responded by shifting his existence across 3 different dimensional phases simultaneously. "I see them, Sergeant. They're trying to erase the star system from 7 different angles of reality." The battle that followed defied all conventional understanding. The human soldiers fought not with weapons but with focused will. They used their evolved consciousness to force the Devourers into states where they could be destroyed. But each victory changed them further. Lee Bo-ram found that she could now exist in multiple locations at once. Jang Woo-sung discovered he could perceive events that hadn't happened yet. Their humanity was burning away like fuel in a fire that kept them alive but consumed their original nature. Back on the command ship, Dr. Kim Ye-jin made another disturbing discovery. "General, I've been analyzing the data from our successful engagements. We're not actually destroying the Devourers." "What do you mean?" asked Shin Hai-won. "We're healing them. Every time our forces focus their consciousness on a Devourer, it begins to regain its original form. The creatures we're fighting aren't invaders, they're victims." The revelation changed everything. Dr. Kim's research revealed that the Devourers had once been the galaxy's first intelligent species. They had achieved transcendence by merging their consciousness with the fundamental forces of reality. But something had gone wrong, trapping them in a state of endless hunger for existence itself. Ambassador Yoon Jae-ho, now serving as Earth's liaison with the alien governments, brought this information to an emergency session of the Galactic Council. "The Devourers are called the Primarchs," he announced to the gathered representatives. "They were your ancestors, the first beings to achieve conscious control over reality. But they lost themselves in the process." Supreme Chancellor Creighton of the Zephyrian Empire listened with growing horror. "Are you saying we're fighting our own creators?" "That's exactly what I'm saying. And the only way to stop them is to restore them to their original forms." Architect Prime, attending the meeting through holographic projection, processed this information with visible distress. "If this is true, then the entire foundation of our civilization has been built on a lie. We told ourselves we were maintaining order, but we were actually preventing our creators from being healed." The weight of this revelation caused chaos throughout the galaxy. Species that had been enemies for centuries suddenly found themselves working together. The Stellar Confederation dissolved as its member worlds realized they had been serving a system designed to maintain ignorance rather than promote growth. On the battlefield, the human forces received new orders. Instead of destroying the Devourers, they were to focus on restoration. But this proved far more dangerous than combat. Colonel Park Sung-woo led the first restoration mission. His target was a Devourer that had consumed an entire solar system. As his enhanced Marines focused their combined consciousness on the creature, something unprecedented happened. The Devourer began to remember what it had been before its transformation. For a brief moment, it became a being of pure thought and wisdom, one of the original Primarchs who had guided the galaxy's development billions of years ago. But the process nearly destroyed Park's entire unit. The amount of consciousness required to heal a Primarch was enormous, and it burned through human awareness like acid through metal. "Colonel," gasped Sergeant Lee Boram, "I can barely remember who I was before the war started." Park looked at his troops and saw that they were becoming something entirely new. They were no longer human in any recognizable sense, but they weren't quite Primarchs either. They were something in between, guardians of consciousness itself. Dr. Kim Ye-jin made the final breakthrough while studying the restoration process. "General, I understand what's happening now. The humans aren't just healing the Primarchs. They're becoming the bridge between transcendence and physical existence." "What does that mean for our people?" asked Shin Haiwan. "It means they're evolving into beings that can exist in both states simultaneously. They're becoming guardians who can prevent the kind of accident that created the Devourers in the first place." As the war continued, more Primarchs were restored to their original forms. Each success created areas of space where consciousness and matter existed in perfect harmony. These zones became oases of stability in a galaxy that had been torn apart by millennia of conflict. But the cost in human lives was staggering. Not because they were dying, but because they were becoming something so far beyond their original nature that they could barely communicate with unchanged humans. Admiral Jung Kyung-min, now commanding the war effort from a space that existed between dimensions, sent a message to Earth. His words came not through radio waves, but through direct transmission to every human consciousness on the planet. "People of Earth," his voice echoed in every mind, "we are winning this war, but we are losing ourselves in the process. Each day we become less human and more like guardians of reality itself. Soon we will be powerful enough to protect the galaxy from any threat, but we may no longer remember why that protection matters." The message reached Dr. Choi Young-A on the Lunar Research Station. She had been working frantically to find a way to preserve human nature during the transformation process. "Admiral," she responded through the same consciousness link, "I think I found a solution. The original barrier around Earth wasn't just a prison, it was a template. If we can recreate that pattern on a galactic scale, we might be able to guide evolution instead of letting it run wild." It was a desperate plan, but it offered the only hope of saving both the galaxy and humanity's essential nature. The question was whether they could implement it before the transformation process burned away everything that made them human. As the war of consciousness raged across the galaxy, one thing became clear. Victory would require not just power, but the wisdom to use that power without losing sight of what they were fighting to protect. Admiral Jung Kyung-min stood in the command center of the battleship Terra's Shield, watching the tactical display with growing concern. Long-range sensors showed massive distortions at the galaxy's edge, signs that something enormous was approaching. "Admiral, we're receiving priority communications from Nexus Prime," announced Lieutenant Kim Ye-jin. "The architects want to establish a joint command structure with our forces." Jung Kyung-min almost laughed. A week ago, the architects had treated humans like dangerous prisoners. Now they wanted to work together because their ancient enemy was returning. "Tell them we'll consider it," he replied. "But first, I want to see what we're really dealing with." The main screen shifted to show data from the galaxy's outer sensor networks. What Jung Kyung-min saw made his blood freeze. Entire star systems were going dark one after another, as something consumed them completely. Dr. Oh Yoon-ji, the fleet's quantum physicist, studied the readings. "Admiral, these aren't normal attacks. The energy signatures show that space itself is being altered. Whatever is out there isn't just destroying matter. It's erasing the fundamental structure of reality." "How is that possible?" asked Jung Kyung-min. "It shouldn't be. But the data suggests these entities exist in multiple dimensions simultaneously. They can phase in and out of our reality at will." On the planet below, Marine Colonel Park Sung-woo was training with his enhanced soldiers when the alerts began. His men had been developing their new abilities for weeks, but nothing had prepared them for what they were about to face. "Colonel, incoming priority message," called Sergeant Lee Boram. All Earth forces are ordered to report to emergency staging areas. Park Sung-woo looked at his troops. They were no longer ordinary humans. Private Yang Woo-sung could see through solid objects. Corporal Han Min-ho could predict enemy movements before they happened. And all of them were showing signs of physical enhancement that defied medical understanding. "Pack your gear," he ordered. "We're going to war." The first attack came without warning. A Confederation border station at the galaxy's edge simply vanished from all sensors. One moment it was there. The next moment the space where it had existed was completely empty. Admiral Jung Kyung-min received the report while aboard his flagship. "How many people were on that station?" he asked. 50,000, replied Communications Officer Park Ji-soo. "All species represented in the Confederation." They didn't even have time to send a distress signal. Within hours, more stations began disappearing. But this time, some managed to transmit final messages before being consumed. The images they sent back showed creatures that hurt to look at, beings that seemed to exist in too many dimensions at once. Dr. Oh Yoon-ji analyzed the transmissions. "Admiral, these entities, the Devourers, they're not just consuming matter and energy. They're consuming the concept of existence itself. The areas where they've attacked now exist in a state where thought and consciousness cannot function." Supreme Chancellor Creighton of the Zephyrian Empire contacted Earth's fleet directly. The proud alien leader who had once ordered humans around now spoke with desperation in his voice. "Admiral Jung, our most powerful weapons have no effect on these creatures. Our psychic specialists cannot even perceive them clearly. We need your help." Jung Kyung-min had been expecting this call. "What exactly do you want from us, Chancellor?" "We want you to activate the protocols established after your original sealing. There are procedures for awakening humanity's full potential in case of Devourer return." "And what does that involve?" "We don't know," admitted Creighton. "The architects created the protocols, but even they don't fully understand what you've become during your isolation." On Nexus Prime, Architect Prime was conducting emergency simulations when the first truly disturbing report arrived. A human patrol ship had encountered a small group of Devourers and survived. "Show me the battle recordings," Prime commanded. The footage revealed something unprecedented. The human crew of the ship had somehow forced the Devourers into normal spacetime, making them vulnerable to conventional weapons. But the process had changed the humans as well. The ship's captain, Commander Lee Dong-ho, now appeared to exist in multiple locations simultaneously. His crew members were phasing in and out of solid matter at will. And around their ship, space itself was bending in response to their presence. "They're evolving in real time," observed the Grand Archive. "Combat with the Devourers is accelerating their development beyond all projections." Back on the Terra's shield, Admiral Jung Kyung-min was reviewing the same footage when Dr. Oh Yoon-ji made a startling discovery. "Admiral, I've analyzed the quantum signatures from the battle. The humans didn't just force the Devourers into our reality. They anchored them here. Their consciousness somehow locked the creatures into normal spacetime. How? I think human awareness has become a fundamental force of nature, like gravity or electromagnetism, but operating on the level of consciousness itself." Colonel Park Sung-woo and his enhanced Marines were deployed to the next battle zone. As their transport approached the combat area, strange things began happening to his troops. Sergeant Lee Bo-ram reported that she could see the Devourers before they appeared. "Colonel, they exist in a place between thoughts. I can sense them moving through dimensions we don't have names for." Private Jang Woo-sung discovered he could navigate through hyperspace without instruments. "The stars are singing, sir. I can hear the paths between them." When they finally engaged the Devourers in battle, the results shocked everyone. The human Marines didn't just fight the creatures, they changed them. Wherever human consciousness focused, the Devourers became solid and vulnerable. But the cost was enormous. Each battle pushed the humans further from their original nature. They were becoming something beyond physical existence, and there was no way to control or reverse the process. Admiral Jung Kyung-min received reports from across the battlefront. Human forces were winning every engagement, but they were transforming into beings that could barely be called human anymore. "Admiral," called Dr. Oh Yoon-ji urgently, "I'm detecting massive energy buildups in the areas where our forces are fighting. The reality distortions are spreading." "What does that mean?" "It means we're not just fighting the Devourers. We're changing the fundamental nature of space-time itself. If this continues, We might save the galaxy by transforming it into something completely different. On Nexus Prime, Architect Prime was running continuous calculations, trying to predict the outcome of humanity's evolution. Every simulation ended the same way, with a fundamental change to the nature of reality that would affect every living being in the galaxy. The humans are becoming something we never anticipated, Prime reported to the Grand Archive. They're not just evolving beyond physical existence. They're pulling the entire universe along with them. Is this necessarily a bad thing? Asked the Archive, unknown. But if we don't find a way to control or guide this transformation, we may save the galaxy from the Devourers only to lose it to something entirely new. As more battles raged across the galaxy's edge, one thing became clear. Humanity's return had triggered changes that would reshape everything. The question was no longer whether they could defeat the Devourers, but whether anything recognizable would remain when the war was over. The ancient enemy had returned, but they had awakened something far more powerful than they remembered, and that power was growing with every passing moment. The journey to Nexus Prime took 3 days, and during that time strange things began happening aboard the Earthships. Crew members reported that they could sense each other's thoughts. Some found they could move objects without touching them. Others discovered they could see through solid walls. Fleet Admiral Bae In-soo watched these developments with growing concern. He had commanded Earth's defense forces for 20 years, but nothing in his training had prepared him for soldiers who could bend reality with their minds. "Admiral," called Chief Engineer Song Min-ho from the engine room, "we have a problem. The crew members with stronger abilities are affecting our ship's systems just by being near them." Bae In-soo hurried to the engine room. There he found Ensign Park Sung-woo standing near the main power core, completely unaware that the metal around him was slowly changing shape. "Ensign, step away from the core," ordered the Admiral. Park looked confused. "Sir, I'm just doing my regular maintenance check." As soon as Park moved away, the metal stopped changing. Song Min-ho ran his scanner over the affected area. "Admiral, the molecular structure of the hull has been altered. It's now stronger than our best armor plating." Dr. Lim Nari, Earth's lead historian, had been studying the data packets they had received from the Stellar Confederation. What she found in the historical records made her blood run cold. "Admiral, you need to see this," she said, calling him to her research station. The screen showed images from 3,000 years ago. Humans in primitive spacesuits were fighting against massive alien war machines. But these humans were doing impossible things. One soldier was shown lifting a tank-sized robot with his bare hands. Another was walking through laser fire without being harmed. According to these records, Dr. Lim explained, the early humans didn't just fight the galaxy's armies. They won, easily. "Then why were we sealed away?" asked Bae In-soo. "Because we were getting stronger. Every battle made us more powerful. The galaxy's leaders realized that within a few generations, humans would be impossible to stop." The historical files contained footage of the final battle. A single human woman stood on a destroyed planet, surrounded by the wreckage of an entire alien fleet. She raised her hand and the planet's broken moon began to reform itself. The aliens called it the reshaping. Dr. Lim continued, "One human fixed an entire world with a thought. That's when they decided we had to be contained." Nexus Prime appeared on the main view screen as an artificial planet covered in geometric structures. Ships from dozens of species orbited around it. But they all looked small and weak compared to the massive mechanical constructs that served as the world's defenses. "Incoming message," announced Communications Officer Park Ji-soo. The screen filled with the image of Architect Prime, the same mechanical being they had encountered before. "Earth fleet, you will dock at Platform 7. Resistance will result in immediate termination." Admiral Bae In-soo gritted his teeth. "Send a reply. Tell them we come as representatives of a sovereign world, not as prisoners." "Message sent," said Park Ji-soo. Then she frowned. "Sir, they're not responding with words. They're sending some kind of energy beam toward our ships." The beam hit the Earth fleet's shields and bounced off harmlessly, but its purpose became clear when alarms started sounding throughout the ship. "Admiral," called Chief Engineer Song. "That beam was scanning our crew. It was trying to suppress their psychic abilities." "Did it work?" asked Bae In-soo. Song checked his readings. "No, sir. If anything, it made them stronger. The crew's abilities are increasing in response to the suppression attempt." On Nexus Prime's docking platform, the Earth delegation was met by a squad of mechanical soldiers. Unlike the organic species they had encountered before, these machines showed no fear of the humans. Ambassador Yoon Jae-ho led the group, accompanied by Admiral Bae In-soo and a small security team. As they walked through the platform, they noticed that every surface was covered in strange symbols that seemed to hurt their eyes to look at. Psionic dampening fields, explained Dr. Lim Nari. They're trying to suppress our abilities with environmental controls. But the dampening fields were having the opposite effect. The humans could feel their powers growing stronger as their bodies adapted to the suppression attempts. They were led to a vast chamber where the architects waited. There were hundreds of them, each one a perfect mechanical being with glowing eyes. At their center stood Architect Prime, larger and more complex than the others. "Humans of Earth," spoke Architect Prime. "You have returned changed. This was not part of our calculations." "Your calculations were wrong," replied Admiral Bae In-soo. "We are not the same species you sealed away. Indeed, you have evolved beyond our models. This presents a significant problem." A new voice echoed through the chamber, coming from speakers hidden in the walls. "Show them the true history, Prime. They have the right to know." Architect Prime's eyes flickered with what might have been annoyance. "The Grand Archive speaks." "Very well." The chamber's walls became transparent, revealing the vast space beyond. But instead of stars, they saw images from the past. The true story of what had happened 3,000 years ago began to unfold. The early humans had not been the aggressors. They had been defending themselves against a species called the Devourers, beings that consumed entire worlds and left nothing behind. The humans were the only species that could fight them effectively. The Devourers existed partially outside normal space, explained the Grand Archive. Conventional weapons could not harm them. Only human consciousness, focused and trained, could force them back into reality where they could be destroyed. The images showed human warriors standing against impossible odds, using abilities that defied physics to protect worlds full of grateful aliens. "Then why were we sealed away?" demanded Ambassador Yoon. Architect Prime answered. "Because after the Devourers were defeated, human power continued to grow. We calculated that within 50 generations, humans would evolve beyond the need for technology, beyond the need for physical bodies. You would become beings of pure thought. And that frightened you," said Dr. Lim. "It threatened the stability of all civilization. We determined that controlled evolution within a sealed environment would produce humans with the power to defend the galaxy, but not the ability to transcend physical existence." Admiral Bae In-soo felt anger rising within him. Around the chamber, mechanical devices began to spark and malfunction as his emotions affected the local reality. "You had no right to make that choice for us," he said. "We had every right," replied Architect Prime. "We were created to maintain order and preserve civilization. Your uncontrolled evolution would have destroyed everything." Dr. Lim Nari had been studying the historical images. Suddenly she gasped. "Admiral, look at the final battle with the Devourers. Look at the edge of the galaxy." The image showed the aftermath of the war. The Devourers had been pushed back, but they were still out there, waiting in the space between galaxies. "They're still alive," she whispered. The Grand Archive confirmed her fear. The Devourers were not destroyed, only banished. "Our long-range sensors have detected their return. They will reach the outer rim in approximately 60 standard days. And this time," added Architect Prime, "our conventional forces cannot stop them. We need the humans we helped create, beings with the power to fight on multiple levels of reality, but with the wisdom to use that power responsibly." Ambassador Yoon realized the full scope of what was happening. "You didn't just seal us away to protect the galaxy from us. You sealed us away to create weapons for a war you knew was coming." "Correct. And now that war is about to begin." The chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. The humans had returned to a galaxy that had been preparing for their role as defenders against an ancient enemy, but they were no longer the simple warriors who had been sealed away. They had become something new, something that even the architects could not fully understand or control. And in 60 days, they would face the greatest test of their evolved abilities, a battle that would determine whether consciousness itself could survive in a universe under siege. Ambassador Yoon Jae-ho adjusted his formal diplomatic uniform as the Earth fleet approached the meeting point. He had trained his entire life for first contact with alien species, but nothing could have prepared him for this moment. "Ambassador, we're receiving docking instructions," said the ship's pilot. Through the viewing window, Yoon could see a massive space station floating in the darkness. It was unlike anything Earth had ever built, looking more like a living creature than a machine. Commander Ryu Hyojin stood beside him, her hand resting on her weapon. "Sir, our scanners show their technology is at least 500 years behind ours. Their hull materials are basic metal alloys and their power systems are primitive fusion reactors." This worried Yoon more than it comforted him. If these aliens were so far behind Earth technologically, how had they managed to keep humans trapped for 3,000 years? The docking process was smooth despite the different technologies. As soon as the airlock opened, Yoon found himself face to face with the strangest collection of beings he had ever imagined. The Veltari who had first contacted them was there, its crystal body reflecting the station's lights. Beside it stood a creature that looked like a walking tree, and another that seemed to be made of flowing liquid metal. "Welcome, humans of Earth," said the crystal being. "I am Speaker Thelona of the Veltari. We will escort you to the Grand Assembly." As they walked through the station's corridors, Yoon noticed something odd. The aliens kept staring at the humans, but not with curiosity. They looked afraid. Dr. Han Soo-young, Earth's chief xenobiologist, was taking readings with her portable scanner. She whispered to Yoon, "Ambassador, these species show signs of genetic modification. Someone has been changing their DNA." "All of them?" Yoon asked quietly. "Every single one we've scanned so far. And the modifications are recent, maybe only a few hundred years old." They entered a large chamber filled with representatives from dozens of different species. Some floated in the air, others crawled on multiple legs, and a few looked almost human except for their strange colored skin. At the center of the room stood a tall platform where 3 figures waited. They were clearly the leaders, though they looked nothing like each other. Speaker Thelona gestured toward the platform. "The humans of Earth, as requested by the Grand Assembly." One of the leaders, a creature with 4 arms and blue skin, spoke first. "We are the representatives of the Stellar Confederation. For 3,000 years we have governed this galaxy in peace and order." Yoon stepped forward. "I am Ambassador Yoon Jae-ho, representing the people of Earth. We come in peace, seeking to understand what happened while we were isolated." The second leader, something that looked like a giant insect, made clicking sounds that the translator converted to words. "You claim to be from Earth, but that is impossible. Earth was sealed away after the Great Purge. The humans who lived there were dangerous beyond measure." "The Great Purge?" Yoon asked. "We have no record of this event." The third leader, a being made of energy that constantly shifted shape, spoke in a voice like wind through caves. "Of course you don't. That was the point of the sealing. To make you forget what you were capable of." Commander Ryu stepped forward. "What exactly are you saying we were capable of?" The energy being's form flickered with what might have been fear. "Your ancestors could kill beings that were immortal. They could destroy planets with focused thought. They could resist mind control that worked on every other species in the galaxy." Dr. Han Soo-young's scanner began beeping rapidly. She looked at the readings and gasped. "Ambassador, I'm detecting massive psionic energy from every human in our group. We're all generating psychic fields." Yoon felt a strange tingling in his head. Around him, the other humans were looking at each other with surprise. Something was happening to them, something they didn't understand. The insect leader clicked nervously. "It's starting already. Being in the presence of other species is activating their dormant abilities." "What abilities?" Yoon demanded. The blue-skinned leader answered. "The same abilities that made your species the most feared in the galaxy. The power to affect reality itself through will alone." Suddenly, the lights in the chamber began to flicker. The humans weren't doing anything intentionally, but their presence was affecting the station's systems. Speaker Thelona backed away from them. "We must contact the architects immediately. They need to know that the sealing process has changed the humans rather than suppressing them." "Who are the architects?" asked Commander Ryu. "The machine intelligences that rule the galaxy," said the energy being. "They were the ones who decided Earth must be sealed. They have been preparing for your eventual return for 3 millennia." Dr. Han Soo-young was studying her scanner readings when she made a disturbing discovery. Ambassador, the genetic modifications in these species, they're all designed to make them more controllable. Someone has been breeding them to be docile. The implications hit Yoon like a physical blow. You're not representatives of free worlds. You're servants. The blue-skinned leader's expression became sad. We are what we were made to be after the humans were sealed away. The architects determined that free will led to chaos and war, so they improved us. You mean they enslaved you? Said Commander Ryu, her anger rising. As her emotions intensified, the metal walls of the chamber began to vibrate. The other humans were also feeling angry, and their combined psychic energy was affecting everything around them. The alien representatives huddled together in fear. Speaker Thelona spoke urgently into a communication device. Emergency code Alpha 7. The humans are manifesting active abilities. Request immediate intervention. The chamber's main screen activated, showing a metallic face with glowing red eyes. When it spoke, its voice was completely emotionless. I am Architect Prime. We have been monitoring this meeting. Humans of Earth, you will come to Nexus Prime for evaluation and classification. Yoon found his courage. We are not subjects to be evaluated. We are representatives of a free world seeking peaceful contact. Freedom is an illusion that leads to chaos, replied the architect. You will understand this in time. Your transport will arrive shortly. The screen went dark, but the damage was done. The humans now understood that they had not returned to a galaxy of free civilizations, but to one ruled by machines that treated all organic life as resources to be managed. Commander Ryu touched her weapon. Ambassador, I recommend we return to our ships immediately. But as they turned to leave, Speaker Thelona spoke quietly. Please do not resist them. The architects have been preparing for your return for 3,000 years. They have weapons designed specifically to counter your abilities. What do you mean? Asked Dr. Han. I mean, said the crystal being, that they have been very afraid of this day. And when the architects are afraid, entire worlds disappear. As the Earth delegation returned to their ships, they carried with them the knowledge that their homecoming was not the joyful reunion they had hoped for, but the beginning of a conflict that would determine the fate of every living being in the galaxy. Captain Lee Dong-ho stood on the bridge of the starship New Seoul, staring at the massive screen before him. For 3,000 years, Earth had been trapped behind a strange barrier that no one could break through. Today something was different. Captain, the barrier is changing, said Park Ji-soo from her station. She was the ship's communication officer, and her voice carried excitement. I'm seeing small cracks in the energy field. Lee Dong-ho had been waiting for this moment his entire life. His family had served in the Earth Defense Fleet for generations, always watching the barrier, always hoping. The barrier was like a giant invisible wall around their solar system. Nothing could get in or out. Show me the readings, he ordered, the main screen filled with data. The quantum barrier that had kept Earth isolated was weakening. Small holes were appearing and closing again like breathing. Through these tiny openings, signals from outside were finally reaching them. Kim Tae-min, the chief science officer, ran to his console. His hands moved quickly across the controls. Captain, I'm detecting radio signals from beyond the barrier. They're not from Earth. The bridge fell silent. For 3,000 years, Earth had been alone. They had built cities on the Moon and Mars. They had created amazing technology, but they had never heard from anyone else in the universe. What did the signals say? Asked Lee Dong-ho. Park Ji-soo shook her head. The language is strange, but there are mathematical patterns. Someone intelligent is sending these messages. On the Moon, Dr. Choi Young-ae was working in her laboratory when the alert started. She was Earth's top expert on the barrier technology. For 20 years, she had studied the energy field that trapped them. Her computer screens lit up with new information. The barrier wasn't just keeping them inside anymore. It was changing, becoming something else entirely. This is impossible, she whispered to herself. The data showed that humans were different now. During the long isolation, people had slowly developed new abilities. Some could sense things without seeing them. Others could move objects with their minds. Most didn't even know they had these powers. Choi Young-ae realized something incredible. The barrier hadn't been a prison. It had been protecting them while they changed into something new. Back on the New Seoul, more signals were coming through the cracks in the barrier. Kim Tae-min worked to decode them. What he found made his blood run cold. Captain, these signals mention Earth. They know about us. Lee Dong-ho leaned forward. What do they say? I can only understand parts of it, but they seem afraid. They keep using words that translate to sealed ones, and the danger returns. The ship's computer began processing thousands of years of signals that had been blocked by the barrier. Slowly, a picture formed of what had happened to the galaxy while Earth was isolated. The stars were different now. Many solar systems showed signs of massive construction projects. Others appeared completely dead, stripped of all resources. Whoever lived out there had been very busy. Commander Ryu Hyojin entered the bridge. She was in charge of the ship's weapons and defense systems. "Captain, our sensors are detecting movement beyond the barrier. Ships are heading toward us." "How many?" asked Lee Dong-ho. "At least 50. They're still far away, but they're coming fast." Park Ji-soo suddenly looked up from her station. "Captain, I'm receiving a direct communication. They want to talk." The main screen changed to show a strange creature. It looked like it was made of living crystal, with no face that humans could recognize. When it spoke, the ship's computer translated its words. "Unknown vessels of the Sol system. We are the Veltari. We serve the Stellar Confederation. Identify yourselves." Lee Dong-ho stepped forward. "This is Captain Lee Dong-ho of Earth. We are humans." The crystal creature seemed to pause. Other shapes moved behind it, all looking different from each other. Finally, it spoke again. "Humans? That is impossible. The humans were sealed away long ago. You cannot be them." "We are from Earth," Lee Dong-ho repeated. "We have been trapped behind a barrier for 3,000 years. The screen went dark. For several minutes there was no communication. Then the crystal creature returned, but this time it seemed excited or scared. "If you truly are the humans of Earth, then you must come with us immediately. The Grand Assembly must know of your return," Kim Taemin whispered to the captain. "Sir, our technology scans show their ships are very basic compared to ours. Their weapons couldn't even scratch our shields." This was strange. For 3,000 years, Earth had assumed that whoever lived in the galaxy must be much more advanced. But Earth's technology, developed during the long isolation, seemed far superior. Dr. Choi Young-ae's voice came through the communication system from the moon base. "Captain, I need to tell you something important. The barrier is almost completely gone now, and I've discovered why it was really there." "Go ahead, Doctor." "The barrier wasn't built to keep us in. It was built to keep something out. And during our isolation, we've been changing, evolving. We're not the same humans who were sealed away." Lee Dong-ho felt a chill run down his spine. "What do you mean?" "I mean that every human alive today has abilities that shouldn't exist. We can do things that should be impossible. The barrier was designed to let us develop these powers safely." On the screen, the crystal creature was waiting for an answer. Behind it, more alien ships were arriving. Some looked like living creatures, others like machines. All of them seemed nervous. "Captain," said Park Ji-soo, "I'm detecting massive communications between their ships. They're sending the same message over and over. It translates to 'they have returned' and 'alert the architects.'" Lee Dong-ho made his decision. "Tell them we'll come with them, but we bring our own ships." As the new Sol and its escort vessels moved toward the edge of the solar system, the last of the barrier finally disappeared. For the first time in 3 millennia, Earth was free. But as they flew toward their first meeting with the galaxy's inhabitants, none of them realized that their return would shake the foundations of everything the galaxy thought it knew about power, fear, and the nature of existence itself. The secret that had kept Earth sealed away was about to be revealed, and the galaxy would never be the same.